Okay, I'm standing over here by the truck, and it's been a kind of a hectic week as far as things going on. I haven't really got a lot of filming in the shop since the last shop update. A couple of people have been moving. My grandson was one of them, and everybody was kind of concentrating on that. There's some things coming up that we have to take care of on a personal basis that I really don't want to get into. But anyways, the last place that I left off on that Ford, they have been debating about what they wanted to do with it. They got my grandson really kind of got disgusted or discouraged is probably a better word, when he couldn't get that last plug out. So let's start off the shop update by concentrating on that. I know that there's a lot of people that were interested in this car and the issues with it, so let me concentrate on that for this shop update. There will be some other things in here, but let's start out with this. Okay, so what we're going to do is we can't get that number 8 plug out of there, and we have not found an extractor. Even if we found an extractor, because the spark plugs are put down inside of tubes, we don't think that we could get an extractor that is small enough in diameter to fit down inside the tube and still go around the plug. So what we're going to do is we're going to take an old extension and a socket and fill it with JB Weld and force it over the spark plug so that it kind of chemically welds itself to the spark plug, and then remove it that way. We're going to lose the spark plug or the socket and the extension in the process, but that's fine. I'll bring you back when we do it.
I'll tell you, the one side definitely comes out faster than the other.
Can you reuse that?
Yeah. It says to mix them in proportion with each other. So I got more black than white here.
What we did prior to doing this is sprayed it out with brake cleaner and then stuck the air hose down in there to try and get all the dirt out of there. There was a bunch of junk in there. Never used this stuff before. It says that it has a strength of 2,424 psi or 2,424 psi, which should be more than sufficient to pull that spark plug out of there.
Kind of just waiting for it to set up, you know what I mean? So it doesn't go inside of that tube.
Here he is filling the socket up. Now we went with this JB Weld. There's a thicker stuff, but we didn't want to use that because we were afraid that it would be too thick. And this would the thinner stuff would more conform around that base of that spark plug. What we're trying to do is not get it on the outside of the socket, so the socket, there is clearance between the sidewall of that tube and the socket when it goes down, but we don't want to get it on the socket so the socket sticks to the tube. We just want it to stick to the spark plug.
It's not filled, because you don't want it to overflow.
Right. You don't want it to squeeze back out and think you got enough in there?
Mm-hmm.
Put a piece of paper down there so that we wouldn't lose the extension too. Not that that's that important.
Here we go.
Is it over it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We'll let you know how we make out. By the way, I had dropped the camera and broke that tab off that holds the camera on the mount, and I put that JB Weld on the piece of plastic, just welded or glued it back on there. I'll let you know how it works. Just so you know, that JB Weld on the camera mount did not work at all. It broke right off. Now, again, it was just a break on plastic, and I didn't rough it up or anything like with sandpaper before I put it on there. I just put it on there thinking that it would do like model glue used to do, and kind of bond the two pieces together by melding into the plastic, but that didn't work at all. What I did do, though, is after I did that, I went out and bought this Loctite super glue and used that to put it together. Now, let me tell you, the first time that I used it, it was after the break from the JB Weld, and there was still some residue on that plastic from the JB Weld. I tried to glue it together with this, and it didn't work either, but what it did the first time that I used it is kind of took that bond off of there, or that clean JB Weld finish that it had left onto the plastic off of there. So I retried it after it didn't work the first time, and the glue had kind of eaten into the plastic, and it worked fine the second time. I'm got it mounted on the tripod right now using that mount, and it did work with this super glue, Loctite super glue. Not saying that any other super glue wouldn't have worked. I just happened to get Loctite. Okay, I didn't clarify this, but this is a filming of us trying to get that socket to remove the plug after the JB Weld installation. Push down on the head of it while you're doing it. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this clip up, but as you're going to be seeing, it doesn't work. So I'm going to bring you back and insert a clip.
Ready?
Yep.
Well, that doesn't feel good. Okay, that's weird.
Can you, did you remember the scope?
Yeah, it's in my, oh fuck, it's in my van. I don't have the van.
So, as you could see, the spark plug did not come out with the JB Weld. Now, why it didn't come out is, it will be probably, well, let me discuss it now, but to begin with, we couldn't get the socket back out. It was kind of welded onto, for a better term, welded onto that spark plug, and we could not get it back out. Now, it was hard to get at, so you understand it's down, that socket is down in one of them tubes, and we were trying to get needle nose pliers down there to grab a hold of it and pull on it. But again, you were surrounded by that tube, and it was in a bad location, so you really weren't able to get a good grip or a good pull on it because of the tube and the location of it. So we couldn't get it out. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch to a different video, but let me first tell you, it became very discouraging for my grandson about this thing, and we He didn't know whether he was going to try and salvage this car or just scrap it. So let me go from there, and I'll bring you back when we came back to it and how we got the socket out of it. Okay, so here is a socket that we got out of the cylinder that had the JB weld on it. And as you can see, it did form around there. It just wasn't tight enough. It's still, you can see how it's still rotated on there. It did fill in those voids in the socket. It didn't on that one, but two. There's two of them that didn't actually fill in. 1, 2. It still spun around it. What we did to get this thing out of here, I have these locking extensions. They're those hand extensions, and you have to pull this thing back. What you do is you put it down the socket, this thing clicks in, it clicks that ball into the side of the socket, and you can't get it back out again unless you pull this down. What he did is wrapped a piece of wire around it so that he could pull up on this once he got it locked down in there. And he used, what did you use, a pry bar to pry it out with? Use a pry bar to pry it out with. But if we couldn't have gotten it out with a pry bar, we could have pulled up on the piece of wire, which would have pulled this back and unlocked the socket. Great thinking. We're really not sure what we're going to do with this car. I'm going to take this cowling off of this front end and see how hard it is to get the radiator, air conditioning, cooling fins, probably oil cooling fins, probably transmission cooling fins in there. Get that out. We're thinking about pulling the head off of it because we feel at this point in time that it's got to be either that spark plug is cross-threaded into the head, or it's stripped out and we just can't pull it out. There's still enough of the threads left in there that are holding it from pulling it straight out, but yet they're so stripped that it just spins in there. So we're thinking if we could get the head off, we could get the spark plug out that way and put one of those spark plug inserts back into the head. Again, aluminum head, so have to put one of them spark plug things back in there. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's like a helicoil type of a situation. So we'll bring you back and let you know what we're going to do. Okay, back here over to the Ford, and as you can see, I pulled that cowling off to see if I could get the radiators and stuff out, and I can. But you know what the issue, some of the issue is this fuse box is up here, right in the middle of the top of the fan shroud, and it's hardwired in on both sides. There's no clip on one side, so if you were to pull the engine out, and there's a reason I'm holding the camera like this. If we were to pull the engine out, we couldn't get it around this box. But what we did was pulled the intake manifold off and pulled the valve cover off on one side, and then we pulled the intake manifold off. I got to tell you, truthfully, whoever the Ford engineers that designed this thing should be fucking shot. On that intake manifold, there was bolted clips that held that wiring harness. You see the wiring harness back there by the firewall? Bolted clips in the back of that thing that held it on there. The only way we were able to do it is pull it part way out, and then he had to reach under the intake manifold and behind it and blindly try and get that bolt out. Now, taking a bolt out is one thing. Trying to get the damn bolt back in there again is another thing. It probably won't go back in there. It'll probably just be zip tied to something in the back to kind of hold it off of everything. The other issue that he had was the throttle linkage. The throttle linkage came into the back too, and again, because of the configuration of this engine into the engine compartment and the firewall, you couldn't get back there. We had to pull the intake manifold part way out so that he could get behind it and try and disconnect that linkage. The thing is a real bitch. I mean, I've never seen anything so poorly designed. Poorly designed. Anyways, what we're going to do, pull the heads off and or at least pull the one head off and get those plugs out. I don't know about the other side if we're going to actually end up pulling that head off too, but what we'll do, pull the heads off. We've got probably 4 hours, maybe not even 4 hours. Yeah, let's say 4 hours for two guys invested in getting this thing stripped down this far. It looks like the head bolts will come out of there. There's not an issue. The only issue we're gonna have is getting the exhaust manifold bolts out. That could be a big issue. Getting to the bottom ones. You can get to the top ones from up here, but get to the bottom ones I'm not really sure of. But we'll bring you along. Our intention right now is to fix this thing. Fix it and put it on the road for his wife, my grandson's wife. So that's where we are. Again, Ford engineers, man. If you guys know of anybody that's a Ford engineer, I'd love to be able to give them a piece of my mind. Okay, I'm back here behind the shop and I've got the trailer back here. Reason I've got the trailer back here is the same reason that I always show it in the shop update. It's back here to get cleaned up and greased and everything. I've got 2 hauls coming up. This is a Sunday afternoon that I'm here. Even though it looks sunny outside, it is sunny outside, but it is cold. It's below 32, so I mean, it feels good in the sun. It feels good with the temperatures that we've been having, but it's still cold. I want to get the trailer cleaned up. I've got a haul. I've got to go down tomorrow afternoon. Again, this is Sunday. I'm leaving Monday afternoon. I'm going down, picking a load of that pipe up for the bollards and have to take it to Albany, New York. And then coming back, and then next week I am going to be making a haul to Arkansas, picking up lathes and surface grinders. Not sure about milling machines maybe, out of a shop in Arkansas and taking them to a guy in Florida. The guy in Florida that's buying this equipment is actually going to meet me in Arkansas. He's got a truck and a small trailer, and he's going to be throwing some of the stuff in there. I think actually Keith Rucker from VintageMachinery.org is going to be there with us too to help sort it out and load it and stuff like that. But anyways, that's kind of what's going on.